Dun, dun, dun. Guys, standing by right here in the Zoom room today is a good friend of mine, known him for a long time here now, is the Chad Lemmens. Chad Lemmens, it's Lemmens Creative Design and drone pilot extraordinaire. If I ever need to know anything about drones, then this guy who's flying his around in the Zoom room right now, that would be Chad. Chad, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. Since we've talked this way, you did all kinds of stuff. Like, for instance, you moved to the East Coast.
Yeah, it's with great sorrow. We had to move from the Midwest when we didn't have to, but we did. We moved to Connecticut. So in the middle of the pandemic, moved a 5-month-old, a dog, a cat, a wife, and another child, and myself across country. Yep.
Wow, incredible. I mean, why? Let's make this a challenge, because it really wasn't before. It's a pandemic.
Not at all.
Well, and some things I wanted to cover with you, the reason why we wanted to zoom out anyway, is to learn a little bit about, because I'm running into more and more photographers out here that are wanting to be, drone freakazoids. And so first, I wanted to ask you a couple things that I never knew, maybe you don't know, but about how many hours do you think you have in the air as a drone pilot?
Oh my gosh. Looking at my logs, which I do keep logs, it's over 5,000 hours, probably, if not more. 5 to 10,000. Yeah.
Wow. Just enough.
A lot of miles in the air.
Oh man. Well, the thing that you used to do all the time out here, and I'm wondering if you're going to do this out in the East Coast now, is that the big thing you and I used to work on is events all the time. We would need to get coverage, video and pictures up in the air. Do you see yourself doing that on the East Coast now?
I do. If you can look behind me, that's Six Flags, New England. I actually was driving on the way to the grocery store, 4 miles from my house, and I just was like, there's an amusement park. And, Dave Kallaway asked, he's like, hey, did you know there's a Six Flags out there? And I was like, I know. And I ended up looking for a perfect cloudy day, and I ended up driving past. Yes, I do anticipate there will be some asks. I've already been asked, even in the short amount of time I've shared these photos, I've been asked to do certain things in the area, in the industry, from a drone perspective. The one thing that's different out here, a couple different things that are different, is there's a lot more air, a lot more manned aviation in the airspace, because it's a smaller confined area, bigger airport. So there's going to have to be more I'm going to need to know, obviously, and utilize. But Central Wisconsin's pretty easy because it's not as populated. It's more rural, as long as you understand, the airspace. It's not as complex out there, but yeah, we'll plan on doing it.
Party on. And besides events, the other thing that you were doing a lot of is you ended up doing a lot of time-lapse videos of things that were being built. And so can you talk about that for a second? I mean, do you perceive yourself, you can maybe do more of that sort of thing? Because it seemed like there was quite a bit of demand for time-lapse.
There is, actually. It's funny because 3 people have reached out to me from Wisconsin, Central Wisconsin, to inquire about that sort of stuff. And I do, and it's part of my portfolio now. It's not a perfect science. It's something that needs to be mastered. So it's not something somebody can pick up on. And I do feel I have a pretty big niche in the area of being able to do it. I know a couple other guys on the other side of Connecticut that do it as well. There's not many of us in the industry that I know of that do it and put together the finished product like we do. So if the situation calls for it, why not? Absolutely.
Yeah. This is the one thing that I think that's interesting about it is, like you said, there's just not a lot of people doing this sort of thing, with drone photography and video. And I think that's why when people learn that you have a drone, they kind of look like a gopher with their head coming out of the hole. They're going, "You got a drone?
What can you do?"
And so when they find out you have a drone, you become the drone guy.
The guy.
You certainly did out here. And that's another thing to ask you about for coming out here is, do you see yourself coming back to Wisconsin to cover any of these large events? There's tons of them normally, and I know we'll get back at them.
I anticipate mid-pandemic. I mean, we were going to make a couple trips back this year, and, I would have timed them around some of the big events if we had them. But I anticipate coming back there. But 2, I have a pretty good network of drone pilots back there that I feel are responsible and capable of doing, replacing, at least getting the footage of my shoes, and then I can finish it and produce the same product that we did even when I was out there. that's the nice thing about being kind of a staple in the industry is if you are doing it right, and if you're making the right decisions and you surround yourself with people that are like you have the opportunity to still, even when I left, I literally was driving to in Indiana. I got an email about, can you do this shoot? And it was right back at the airport in central Wisconsin. And I'm like, yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll find a way. But yeah, I do anticipate coming back, and I'm coming back later this month. I have a year-long project for the town of Red Mountain. I'm going to be doing a shoot for them. And I anticipate bringing the drones or fleet.
Got to have the luggage.
Lock them on.
The drone luggage will be in tow.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about the company DJI for a second, because you and I, we've got big love for DJI drones, the biggest drone seller out there is on the planet. But the thing is, though, is that they're up against some stuff in court right now. There's somebody that has taken them on and said, listen, no, you can't sell all your drones anymore. Do you see things really changing for DJI, or is this a bump in the road?
I'm not a political person. I try not to get involved where I don't know a lot of the information, because there's a lot of hearsay in the conversations, and where did you find it? What is it? I mean, specs, I've seen patent designs around what's going on, kind of engulf myself a little bit. I mean, they were 93% of the market a couple of years ago, and this didn't come out then. So why is it coming out now? I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's pushing back on things from certain parts of the world, and maybe that could be their angle. I'm not sure. So to me, big market leaders, it's tough. But if it does, it does. Then everybody shifts. So to me, regardless if it's DJI or any other drone, I'll fly it. If the world comes to that, I think there's bigger issues coming up. Not bigger issues, but obstacles coming up for the drone industry, and that's how we navigate into the airspace. And how the FAA and how they might use it for revenue cycles and certification. So I mean, I think there's a lot more coming up that a lot of people don't understand. But these big hit lawsuits or patent infringement cases, you never really know what's going on behind the closed doors. But I've read it, I've seen it. Who knows? I guess. Does that help? I'm not going to give my POV on whether or not I agree to it or not, but it's major. I can see it. But
well, the jury is literally still out, so We'll see how things
we shall see.
The one thing that I've been noticing that has been great is that there really hasn't been any sports on television until this past weekend. They had the NASCAR race, and I noticed that they were using a high-speed drone in order to cover it. And I thought that it added a dimension of excitement to the sport. And I'm wondering if there's going to be other sports that will pick up the ball, so to speak, and cover baseball, maybe football more using drones, because right now, they're using cameras that are attached to wires and all kinds of things to make it look like there's a lot of camera movement. But drones, wow, for NASCAR, I hope they keep them because it looked fantastic. I'm not a NASCAR guy. And so to watch a race for me, I mean, they're turning left, big deal. So, but I get there's so many fans out there, but I think this really added a dimension by having a drone follow along with all the cars.
Yeah, I mean, they've been using some of the bigger drones for sports for a couple of years now, especially golf. It's a wide open area. They can, get some views from over the ocean. They don't have to use a blimp or something. I mean, it's now they have the opportunity to do that quick up and down live feed. But yeah, these FPV drones, I think you guys, this is my niche too, is these fly-throughs, these ability to fly by wire, they call it. Like you say, the NFL works so well because they have that wire cam. And it can literally be right in the action and not provide any issues with security and safety. So I think, as these drones, fly-by-wire drones, become, more and more ingrained, you're going to see a lot more of them into these specific sports. The biggest concern you're going to find yourself with is the reliability on the feeds, as well as the battery life on them are very, very. I mean, you're operating on a very tight, small drone with a high definition camera, and you're getting 7-8 minutes battery life max. So, you still have that issue and that, that dilemma when it comes to it. But yeah, you'll see them. Whether you'll see them in basketball, probably not. Baseball, probably not. Maybe more of the fast-paced sports. That's why NASCAR. I thought it was pretty cool. You can see those flying around. They had them at the Olympics. You might see them on skiing, those sorts of things. But you still get into a situation of, managing your pros and cons of safety, fly by wire with the battery life and and the feed reliability. But yeah, they're pretty neat. They're pretty cool. You can see them do a lot of different things.
Can you imagine that if there was a requirement, all sports have to only be 10 minutes long so the
That'd be
drone
great.
can cover it?
Yes, that's perfect.
Oh, my battery's run out. Okay, game's over.
Oh, game over. We end in a tie.
I can see that. I can see that for sure. Hey, well, and another question, we'll be wrapping up here shortly, but Chad, it's about learning the whole thing of flying safely. I know there's a couple of my photographer friends who are very good photographers, and some of them, they work strictly with landscape, being out in the middle of nowhere. But then there's other people who want to be event drone operators out here. They want to join your network, but the thing is, though, is they need to learn. Where do you normally send them, and is the answer you?
I actually just sent the NTC an email the other day about doing some sort of pre-programmed, pre-recorded Power 107, how to become certified class or webinar. I think it's really important, and I've been asked these questions myself. People find me, they come to me, and it's just tough to answer them all because there's so many of them. But there's a lot of information out there. When I learned it 4 years ago, there wasn't. I had to learn it from the actual aeronautical books, and I was not a pilot, so it was a learning curve for me. But there's a lot of information out there right now, and like anything on the interwebs, everything is reliable, right? Everything is reliable content that you should.
Of course.
Believe. So I can see it. Central Wisconsin's picking up. Wisconsin's picking up. Some of these industries and some of these other areas have been on drones for 5-6 years, and there's integrated webs of different individuals. I can see Wisconsin starting to pick up speed into it. It's just a timing thing. So you're going to start to see the influx of these, and then you're going to have some control around them. But from a knowledge perspective, learning, I don't have any specific sources that I'm going to cite right now.
Sure.
But I can tell you this: there's a lot of information out there. It is quite different than just taking a photo. You have to learn about airspace. You have to learn about flying conditions and the environment and weather. So talk to our meteorologist friends and cloud side types and, wind shears. And there's a lot more than just saturation, dehazing, and, clarity and white balance. So I can see it though. I've been approached by photographers that are pretty good, that they want to add that to their repertoire. But it is quite a learning curve. The camera is the camera, but it's becoming essentially a pilot, because you really have to know what. Plus, with the insurgence of new regulations, potential restrictions, it's going to get even harder, and you're really going to have to keep up with it. I'm going to call this out now. The way I see it is that the drone industry will be like the plumbing and electrical industries like they are today, where you have to become certified, you have to go and pass certifications, take ongoing education assessments. I see that in the next 4 or 5 years, that's where it's going to go.
Wow.
And then it's going to become just, not anybody can just do it because of the way it is. You just saw the Detroit Blue Angels flight with the drone. As people continue to be able to have free reign to fly these things in certain areas, it's only going to create a more of a restrictive industry. So then your average photographers who don't want to go through the rigmarole of figuring everything else out may not be able to do it. But to answer your question, there are some reliable sources. I'd be more than happy to answer some questions if people have them. There are forums out there on Facebook in every single area, whether you're in Connecticut Drone Photography Network, Central Wisconsin Drone Network, Wisconsin Commercial Drone Network. There's all sorts of different networks out there. Find yourself somebody that will answer your questions, but don't become annoying, I guess, because at the end of the day, they're giving you their secret. We created the Xerox machine, right, in ourselves to know and understand what it takes to get this thing from the ground and operate to collect a photo like this, even though using technology you're familiar with, Dave, to turn it around into a nice photo that can now safely, responsibly resell to some company, whether it's Six Flags or not, just for an example, and turn it into a piece of essentially paper that Xerox makes. So, it's just an art and a science, and with it comes effort. And, you know, unfortunately, I would like to say there's a free secret sauce out there that you can put on your drone and make it fly and have it be legal, but there's not. So, you know, it's just hard work, dedication, perspiration.
Amen.
But
You know, I was for you.
Yeah.
I know you remember my saying, but I'm going to stick with it. Is that if you you know, want to own a drone, the best way to own a drone is have someone else own a drone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not you.
No.
Go find a guy, because if you're in the wedding
Yeah.
business, construction, anything that requires a drone operator, someone who knows what they're doing, you need to go get a Chad. Don't be a Chad. Oh, you know, just know the phone number for the Chad.
Yeah, you know, I've told you this. You know, that when you're taking a photo on the ground, your feet are on the ground, you're not going to hurt anybody, other than, you know, defamation of character potentially. But, you know, that's it. I mean, you're not going to hurt anybody by really taking a photo. But now when you fly this thing in the air and it falls out of the sky, it can hurt people. That's the difference. The difference is in taking a photo. The difference is you're now no longer standing on the ground taking that photo. You're flying it in the sky where there's manned aircraft. There's safety, there's people below you, there's cars. So yeah, I mean, take the pros and cons. Do you want to pay the insurance? I have insurance. I have to pay insurance. It's a yearly fee. Do you want to pay the certification and take the test and spend their time doing it? Do you want to certify the drones and require to have maintenance checks and understand battery life cycles and rotations? I mean, that's really all it is. But you buying this drone off the shelf, you're like, I had no idea. You know, like, that's the choice you make. Just like when you go become a teacher or a DJ or a, you know, and it all comes with certain intricacies. But, you know, you're right. I'm not saying the Chad can be there in every single situation, but you're right. Whether you choose to find a contractor that, you know, that can fly drones legally, safely, or you go out and try to do it yourself, you know, one path is a lot harder than the other. But one path yields you to a different gain than the other, and so it's a constant juggling.
Yeah, I think you know, it could be a good acronym. You may want to work on this, where champion height and altitude dude could be Chad's CHAD.
Make a shirt.
Yeah, let's think about that. So, well, Chad, thank you for doing this. This so rocks. I mean, you've answered lots of questions, and we'll just, you know, we'll just feed it right to the drone world out there on the internet. Why not?
Yeah. Well, I'm still here. I still have, you know, I still have footprints back in the Midwest, and I still think about everybody back there. I'll still post photos from my favorite times, and we'll still make appearances. The Dave's there, so I got to come back and see him, and then obviously my family's still in the area, so we'll definitely be back and around.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome news. We miss you already, and we hope you come back soon, man.
Thanks, Dave. Well, you have a good day.
Oh, my God. We got to. Somehow, some way. Party on. Thank you, man.